Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. My name is Ayushi Bajpayee and I'm a PhD candidate in Dr. Sarbajit Banerjee's lab in the Department of Chemistry at Texas A&M University. Today, I'll be presenting on in situ resource utilization and reconfiguration of soils into construction materials for additive manufacturing of buildings. Any conversation about construction materials cannot start without mentioning the notoriously famous concrete. It has been used for decades as a building material, but just recently the world is getting to realize its downsides. Concrete is one of the largest contributors to the global anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions. It takes about 4 gigajoules of energy to produce 1 ton of ordinary Portland cement. As we can see in this graph at the bottom left, that the emissions from just the cement production in China surpasses the total carbon dioxide emissions in most developed nations in Europe. These carbon dioxide emissions from the cement production are composed of two types of emissions. One is the process and the second is the thermal emissions. So the materials as well as the processes involved in making the material are both contributing to the carbon dioxide emissions. When we think about world's construction related spending, it accounts to 13% of world's GDP. But if we look at the productivity increase in this sector, it has just increased 1% in past 20 years. And this discrepancy is majorly due to the slow adoption of innovation in materials when it comes to construction related development. In our search for finding an alternate to concrete, we are exploring soil as a building material. Soil is one of the most abundant minerals in the Earth's crust, and one of the most interesting part of the soil is its clays. Clays are basically aluminosilicate networks which are found in different parts of the soil depth profile. One interesting type of clay is the montmorillonite, which absorbs water inside its tunnels and swells up. In past, our lab has explored different types of soil stabilization. One of them is the stabilization of muskeg soil, found in Alberta, Canada. We use mulch and hydroxyethyl cellulose along with silicate framework to stabilize the soil. Moving forward, we wanted to understand the role of additive manufacturing in construction. Additive manufacturing holds the power to realize otherwise inaccessible geometries, which is beyond human capacity. It also helps limit human dependence during construction, which can lead to automation and construction in inhospitable terrains. The picture on the left are from our collaborator who is helping us understand the idea of interlocking, which can be achieved using 3D printing. 3D printing also holds the power to reduce material consumption. As you can see in the image on the bottom left, we can create the same type of structure with the same load-bearing capacity, but with a reduced amount of a material by a concept of generative design. The only challenge with additive manufacturing is the adhering to the rheology and curing kinetics, meaning that the material which we are trying to print has to hold its shape and has to hold the material on top of it. In order to move forward towards our goal of sustainable material development, we collaborated across disciplines and we developed a roadmap for in situ resource utilization that can help us to close the loop of sustainability and rest assured that we are in creating the next concrete. The methodology comprises of 5 aspects which work together in coherence to create a feedback loop of creation of palette of sustainable materials. We start with the materials development where we try to functionalize the clay platelets in such a way that it is rheologically feasible to print. Additional cross-linking modes are attained by fiber reinforcement to give more strength to the material. Functional additives are designed to accelerate, retard the setting time depending on the type of printability feature which is needed. Hence, we alter the nanoscale properties of the clay in order to create macrostructural differences in the mechanical properties. The second phase is the printing dynamics, where the geometry has to be optimized in order to predict stable structure with minimal use of material. Nozzle design plays an important role in the printing process, and the printing and the extrusion phase are important for adjusting the preparation time before printing. For example, if we have a material which is fast setting, then we need to modulate the printing phase accordingly. Moving forward towards fused and formed function, we first try to measure the rheology and properties like yield stress and kinetic viscosity because they are very important to determine the material is feasible for printing or not. So if it has a higher yield stress, it will be difficult for the material to pump. We also use the mechanical properties of these materials such as compressive strength as a parameter of strength and durability. We also performed extended measurements of durability and fracture properties to get a detailed understanding of the structure. Finally, we understand and analyze the sustainability of the created composite using life cycle assessment, where we strategize, access, and implement the type of materials and types of processes involved in the composite formation. In order to apply this methodology, we chose one of the most complex forms of clay in nature, the clay from a backyard, which we sourced from College Station, Texas. After grinding the clay to get finer particles, we did a particle size analysis to understand the particle size distribution present inside the clay. We also tried to analyze the clay using IR spectroscopy, where we could see the stretching and bending modes of silicon oxygen bonds and aluminosilicate bonds as well. Here we also find some hydrogen bonded siloxane groups that help us understand the types of features inside the clay. The clay composite was developed in 3 steps. First, the Boulevard series clay was sourced in College Station, Texas and ground to a fine particle size. Moving forward, the external silicate network was formed via hydrolysis and condensation of sodium silicate. Lastly, the rheology modifier was developed using the naturally sourced cellulosic material, which helped in reduction of yield stress of the soil and helped it flow better during the printing phase. The figure on the left represents a 2-inch by 2-inch block of World War series clay composite. This research attracted overwhelming media coverage. Here is a snippet of CNN news feature of our research depicting the 3D printing of clay composite.
Ayushi tailored the formula so it would flow easily through a 3D printer and cure quickly to support the next layer of material. Then she used it to build a test structure. Group leader Sarvajit Banerjee says the chemistry makes it possible to use a variety of local soils and avoids the need to transport materials long distances.
It is clear from the video that the composite mixture holds its structure during the printing process. Moving forward, I would like to discuss the mechanism of hydrolysis and condensation reaction of sodium silicate. Sodium silicate hydrolyzes in presence of water into multiple silanols. In presence of alkali, these silanols form reactive intermediates which start creating linear siloxane networks and soon enough form long oligomers. These oligomers cross-link multiple times to form a 3D cross-linked reaction product. In order to get a better understanding of the soil composite, we did energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy along with scanning electron microscopy. We created false color elemental maps of major elements present inside the matrix, namely oxygen, sodium, potassium, silicon, and aluminum. This helped us map the specific mineral moieties present inside the composite matrix. Mechanical and rheological properties of the composite matrix were also measured. On the left-hand side, we can see a graph of shear stress versus shear rate. From this graph, we can infer that the yield stress of the material was around 33 Pascal. To put this in perspective, it was similar to the yield stress of whipped cream. Hence, we can see that the material does not require a lot of pressure to be pumped during the 3D printing phase. The viscosity of the material keeps increasing with the shear rate. We did the compressive strength measurement on a 2-inch cube, and we found that the compressive strength of the material reaches 3 megapascal. We can infer from these results that the Burwash series clay was modified to be rheologically compatible with 3D printing and load bearing at the same time. All in all, in summary, we created a framework to use naturally sourced materials modified to be extrudable, compatible, and cross-linkable to enable the construction of sustainable load-bearing structures. Following our in situ resource utilization methodology, we created a new admixture for enhancing the flowability of the soil. Burwash series clay was modified to construct local load-bearing structures, and dispersion proved rheologically compatible for 3D printing. Hence, this research from this research we provide an alternate to concrete, and currently we are exploring different avenues of construction on Moon with NASA funded project for extraterrestrial construction as well as development of soil composites and admixtures which can reduce our day-to-day dependence on concrete. On that note, I would like to end my presentation and I'm opening the platform for questions. Thank you.